Hello everyone and welcome to episode 8 of the Wrestling Matters podcast. My name is Anthony Walker, as you well know. Today's show we're going to talk about the main points of Raw, which took place in London. And as a matter of fact, WWE was in the UK this past week. And we're going to talk about Raw, we're going to talk about Smackdown, TNA, main points. And I want to promote a few other things as well. And you know what, I might even give you a little bit of a shoot as well. Because quite frankly, I am still disgusted in something on WWE. But then again, I'll get to that later on. Without further ado, let's take it to the Raw main points. Monday Night Raw was in London this past week. London and Raw and Smackdown were in there. I'll get to Smackdown later on. He's got the whole world in his hands, and that includes London too. Bray Wyatt and his family kicked off Raw in London's O2 Arena with a sing-along. And most importantly, a message to John Cena, who accepted the Man of 1,000 Truths challenge for a last man standing match at the WWE Payback pay-per-view, and may have unwittingly sealed his own doom in the process. Not only did Wyatt promise to be the last man standing, he promised that Luke Harper would put Cena down in a one-on-one match later on in the evening. It took a timely bit of misdirection for Cena to get his own word in edgewise. He used his entrance music as a distraction and emerged from beneath the ring to give Bray Wyatt a attitude adjustment. Action speaks louder than words, and Cena proves that whether the Wyatt family like it or not, he's outsmarted them on that occasion. Question is, will he do it? Will he continue to do it? We'll have to wait and see. A Beat the Clock match took place this past week. A Beat the Clock tournament, rather, took place this past week on Raw to determine the number one contender for the Intercontinental Championship and who will get a shot at Bad News Barrett at Payback pay-per-view. The first one kicked off with Big E Langston and Ryback. Why should Godzilla have all the fun? Big E and Ryback hopped on the bandwagon, so to speak, in high style, clashing in a monstrous Beat the Clock match that all but shook the O2 Arena to its foundation. With the Intercontinental title match going to the fastest victor, that's 2 more matches later on in the evening, Big E and the Big Guy unleashed a full scope of their considerable arsenals to stake a claim for the gold. After each man let fly with gravity-defying slams and strikes that could level Buckingham Palace, Ryback claimed the advantage by taking Big E's leg from behind. Ryback could have proved enough of a follow-up to dispatch the powerful weightlifter, or the powerlifting champion as it says here, and E took one step closer to reclaiming his title back by neutralizing Axel and hitting Ryback with a big ending, setting the pace at 5 minutes 2 seconds and getting the 1-2-3 over Ryback. I'd like to see a feud between Ryback and Big E at some point as well. 2 monsters going at it. Pretty sure Big E will bring the best out of Ryback. I'm pretty sure of that. It would appear Stephanie McMahon might get what she wanted all along. Granted, it took an outlandish circumstance to accomplish what Kane, Batista, Triple H and Randy Orton could not, but with Daniel Bryan on the mend following neck surgery this past Thursday and unable to compete for the foreseeable future, WWE's female bitch principal, as she's probably well known now, has all the ground she needs to strip the Yes Man of the World Championship. However, as she revealed to the WWE Universe in her State of the WWE World Heavyweight Championship address, Stephanie knows better than to make Bryan into something by doing so. Instead, she officially placed an offer on the table to Bryan to come to Raw next week and surrender his title to her, so that the WWE Universe may have the active champion she says they deserve. The only thing Stephanie deserves is a good old-fashioned ass-kicking. It's a disgrace to how they're using Bryan at this moment. The next match, and the next main talking point, saw a Beat the Clock match involving Rob Van Dam and Alberto Del Rio. The whole fucking show went international thanks to Rob Van Dam's Beat the Clock victory over Alberto Del Rio. Not only did it give Mr. Monday Night a chance to beat on his on-again, off-again rival, but it also knocked off Big E's earlier mark as the time to beat for prospective number one contenders to the Intercontinental Championship belt. Rob Van Dam was all over Del Rio from the start, attempting to dispatch him with a series of his hardcore offensive roll-ups before the Mexican's aristocrat found his educated foot footing, if you will. The former world heavyweight champion, a man who claims to have shouldered no less a burden than the future of the planet, whatever that meant, would not be beaten so easily. Despite 2 rolling thunders from RVD, it took a reversion to Van Damme's original game plan, a roll-up to claim the 1-2-3, and a time that stood at 4 minutes 15 seconds. Nothing like a good loophole to even the odds. With only official personnel allowed at ringside for Seth Rollins' rematch with Batista, Triple H exploited a technicality by installing himself and Randy Orton as special guest ring announcer and timekeeper for the contest, and Rollins countered by naming Dean Ambrose and Roman Reigns as special guest commentators. A trip into the steel steps grounded Rollins for a long stretch, and Batista capitalized, unleashing an elbow that sent the former tag team champion into a full flip. The Arius quickly took flight after being muscled into his enemy's corner, forcing Evolution to interfere and kick off a all-out melee between the two factions that ended with a DQ win for Rollins when the game clobbered him with a forearm. When the match was over, the Shield was free to pounce on their foes. Through Evolution was able to save face by rescuing Batista from a triple powerbomb. This war's only just begun between these two teams, and I can't wait to pay back, and God forbid and God willing, I cannot wait to Battleground after Money in the Bank, man. If that War Games match is going to take place, because these two, good grief, these two teams are going to tear that thing apart, and I can't wait. In the final beat the clock match, Dolph Ziggler faced Mark Henry. 4 minutes and 15 seconds is little less time than Dolph Ziggler typically takes to do what he does best, but for 4 minutes and 15 seconds is all he had, despite the fact Dolph didn't quite top Rob Van Damme's time to become the #1 contender for Wade Barrett's Bad News Barrett's Intercontinental Championship. The show-off gave an expert class in how to take down a behemoth with his effort against Mark Henry. Unable to compete with the raw power of Mark Henry, Ziggler picked Henry apart with drop kicks, and when Henry gained momentum, used speed to his advantage by escaping the world's strongest slam and hitting the zigzag, though it wasn't quick enough to beat Rob Van Damme's time. The newly crowned #1 contender was celebrating for very long, because as he was stood on top of the stage, posing to the crowd with his pointy thumbs and his Rob Van Damme thing, out of nowhere, from behind, Bad News Barrett whacks him with a bull hammer elbow and says that he will be damned if a Brit like him loses the Intercontinental Championship to a Yank from America. So the match is set. Bad News Barrett, Rob Van Dam for the Intercontinental Championship. With the Usos at his flanks, John Cena managed to defeat Bray Wyatt's henchman Luke Harper, though it certainly cost him. Harper and Cena were forced to dig deep into their respective stores. Harper, Kunrana, dropkick, torture rack, neckbreaker throughout the 20-minute barn burner these two had. Through Cena caught the first real break of the match when Harper tree trunk legs when he got Harper into the STFU, or the STF as it's known. With the fate of the match at stake, the Wyatts rushed the ring and were met in kind by the Usos. Even though Bray Wyatt dispatched both tag team champions with Sister Abigail, and Cena wandered straight into a Michinoku driver from Harper, it was interference from the Wyatts after an AA to Harper that gave the C Nation leader the win. And what a hollow win it was. The Wyatts immediately circled the C Nation leader and began to put a beat down on him. Bray punctured the assault with Sister Abigail to the steel stage while Harper countered the 210, and the crowd sang along. The editor of words is, he's got the whole world in his hands. Wyatt ended the night much as he began, with the whole world in his hands. But will the whole world of John Cena be in Bray Wyatt's hands at Payback? And will the mastermind himself, Bray Wyatt, have John Cena's fate of the WWE in his hands? Guess we'll find out. I think he won't. Now on to the TNA main points. Impact Wrestling kicked off a huge start as MVP arrives with his new buddies, Kenny King and Bobby Lashley, by his side. The self-proclaimed #1 contender to the World Heavyweight Championship wastes no time in patting himself on the back for taking the power at will and surrounding himself with talent. Lashley and King praise the boss and call him a genius for creating this new unstoppable alliance. We all thought we knew who MVP was, but we had no idea he is all about power and about himself. That's when the wolf in the sheep clothing is confronted by the wolves in wolves clothing. The wolves race to the ring and waste no time in confronting Team MVP with their tag team titles in hand. Davey and Eddie call out the boss on his abuse of power, you could say. What happened to the promises you made? What happened to making a real change? Needless to say, MVP isn't cool with his approach, and the conversation goes from civil to violent rather quickly. The beatdown ensues on the wolves, and Kenny King and Bobby Lashley overpower them along with MVP, and they take it up to the staging area, and Bobby Lashley takes a running start and spears Davey Richards right off the platform through a table below, and with the result of that, the paramedics and TNA officials come to the aid of Davey Richards, and with the result, Davey Richards winds up in the hospital. Pretty impactful way to start Impact. The World Heavyweight Champion, however, shows up next, and he's not in a very happy mood. Before he can even get one sentence out to explain why, he is interrupted by MVP and his power players. It makes no difference why. He addresses all three and doesn't mince words. He calls Kenny King a scumbag and questions how Bobby could join a person like him. What will you say one day, Lashley, when your son asks you that magic question? Dad, why is everybody calling you a sellout? This leads to a change in position of MVP, takes the ring and surrounds the champion rather than cower. Young goes on the attack and jumps on them all. His offense quickly turns into defense as the big three, so to speak, start pummeling the World Heavyweight Champion, and then an unlikely savior emerges. Austin Aries. To roaring applause, it double darts into the ring and helps EY fend off the attackers. He throws down a challenge and we get an immediate response. Boss verifies it. Tonight it's going to be MVP versus Austin Aries. Also, EY will be facing somebody as well, which will be named later on in the evening. A few weeks ago, the fans were solidly behind MVP and his battle against Austin Aries. What a difference a few weeks makes. With the fans finally seeing the boss through Austin's eyes, they were more than vocal in their support for the greatest man that ever lived when he stepped into the ring for their match. As he tore into the man in charge with laser-like intensity, Austin Aries seemed on his way to an easy victory. That's when Bobby Lashley and Kenny King jumped in to remind him that outdoing MVP is never easy. The interference led to a disqualification, but that didn't seem to affect the three men doing all the hitting with Aries getting a first-class shell attack. However, Eric Young sprinted to the ring to try and return the favour for Austin Aries. Unfortunately, the 2 is still less than 3, and he too found himself overpowered. That's when MVP revealed Eric Young's opponent for later on in the evening, which was Bobby Lashley. More on that later. However, a surprise was in store for MVP. TNA President's music hits and Dixie Carter comes out with her nephew, Ethan Carter III, or as MVP calls him, C3PO, following behind with his eyes focused on the ring. What a weirdo. She steps right up into an old enemy's face. Instead, she thinks she can help MVP in his quest for power. But before she can explain how, Bully Ray's music hits and she nearly has a heart attack. Enraged, Ray came marching into the ring with a pole in his hand as he went after the TNA president. MVP and his crew parted like the Red Sea and smiled as they watched the chase. Carter and EC3 went up the aisle, leaving Bully Ray to have a long overdue shouting match with MVP. The former world champion calls out the boss for all his underhanded tactics one by one. Just as he's saying everything we wish we could, he is jumped by Kenny King. It becomes a 3-on-1 beatdown, and this time no one comes to his help. Dixie Carter and even Carter III come out, though, but not to help. With huge grins, the Carters come to take a closer look at the beating. When it's over, Ethan takes the opportunity to put the clear, dazzled Bully Ray through a wooden table. Looking down on the splintered wood and broken Bully Ray and a broken Bully, Dixie proves her point. Dixie fears no one. Ha, I beg to differ. She won't be saying that when she gets put through a table herself. And you know it's coming. More than likely it'll be at Slammiversary when Bully Ray faces EC3 one-on-one. Davey Richards has been transported to a local medical facility, and Eddie Edwards was livid. Barely able to speak, he calls Team MVP to the ring, and the second Kenny King shows his face, he's jumped. And the brawl begins. Edwards goes to town with punches and kicks. Things didn't remain one-sided as the King of the Night eventually made a comeback, and after he hit a suplex on the ramp that would send chills down your spine just watching it, the brawl came to an end. Bobby Lashley might seem like an opponent that Eric Young can overcome, but Eric Young has spent his whole career overcoming opponents that Eric Young can't overcome. The bigger they are, the harder they fall, and the World Heavyweight Champion wasn't about to let Lashley roll right over him. He used his quick thinking to outmatch Bobby's power, but when Kenny King and MVP ran out to interfere, the referee had no choice but to do nothing, be prepared to face repercussions if he did. Referee Brian Hebner allowed the boss to do whatever he wanted. The match continued. Lashley hit a power slam and Eric Young was pinned. To say this match was unfair was an understatement. The post-match beatdown began right after the bell, and it was mere seconds before Austin Aries ran out to lend a helping hand once again. However, the road to pain is paved with good intentions, and soon Austin Aries found himself in the same position as the TNA World Heavyweight Champ. With TNA's heroes down on the mat, MVP and King, along with Bobby Lashley, stand tall as Impact came to a close. What's in store for next week? What's in store for Slammiversary? Guess we have to wait and see. Now on to the Smackdown main talking points. And Hulkamania ran wild at Smackdown. That's right, Hulk Hogan was at Smackdown this week. WWE Hall of Famer and Jimmy Hart kicked off the Friday night, welcoming the immortal Hulk Hogan to Smackdown, to London for the first time in over 20 years. Apparently it's been 20 years since he's been in London. After giving a nod to the past that is currently being spotlighted in WWE's network hit reality show Legends House. Apparently he was out promoting that show and everything from what I saw on SmackDown anyway. The Hulkster spoke of a bright future for all the British Hulkamaniacs. He does a lot of promoting when he comes out into the ring, man. He really does. I mean, he's supposed to be the host of SmackDown. He was supposed to be the host of this SmackDown, but they always have him come out and promoting shows on the WWE network. I mean, he promoted the hell out of WrestleMania, and he always comes out, and now he's came out on here on SmackDown and promoting the Legends House show on the network as well. It's just like whatever kind of moment, but always good to see Hogan. Now, 1 week ago on SmackDown, Batista got himself disqualified in a contest against Dolph Ziggler, moments before unleashing a vicious beatdown on the show-off. As a result, his adversary demanded a no disqualification rematch. He got it. The battle was brutal from the start, incorporating the likes of a steel chair, the ringside barrier, the announce table, and everything else that might assist in causing an all-out destruction. However, when Ziggler launched off the ring apron to hit Batista with a famouser onto the unforgiving steel steps, his opponent moved out the way, and as a result, Ziggler's leg caught onto the steel steps that paved the way for the animal to finish him off with a spear and a 1-2-3. And after the match, Batista hit Dolph Ziggler with a powerbomb, Batista bomb, no doubt probably sending a message to the Shield for their match at Payback. After laying out his WWE Payback last man standing opponent John Cena on Raw, Bray Wyatt journeyed to SmackDown to inform the WWE Universe that society has put them in a prison, and that the role of individuals like Cena was to make them think that everything was okay. According to the Eater of Words, that's why he's exists. Bray informed one and all that he will be standing there when Cena falls and the C Nation crumbles around him. He also made it clear that his disciples Luke Harper and Eric Rowan would teach WWE Tag Team Champions the Usos a lesson on SmackDown in the main event. One thing's for sure, this feud between Cena and Bray Wyatt will no doubt end at Payback. And on to the main event of SmackDown. In the highlight of SmackDown's Furious Tag Team main event, Bray Wyatt brought about the disqualification by throwing one of the Usos over the top rope and out onto the ringside floor. However, John Cena seized back the momentum without missing a beat, leaping into action to deliver a post-match attitude adjustment on Eric Rowan. While the C Nation leader may have been down for the 10 count on Raw, he sent a strong message to the Eater of Words that he will be looking to stand tall in their last man standing match at Payback. Gonna be a war. But then again, John Cena's always been in wars when it comes to last man standing matches. Go back to his match that he had with the late Umaga at a Royal Rumble pay-per-view once. Here and that one. Right, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of the talking points from Raw, SmackDown and TNA. I will be back after this promo with some shoutouts, some promos as well regarding my YouTube channel, and any other things that I can throw in as well. So I'll be back after this. Stay tuned. Download the Wrestling Matters podcast now on Podomatic.com and iTunes for free.
Well, enough is enough, and it's time for a change! Are you ready?
It is Sunday, and you're listening to the Sunday Segway Wrestling Podcast.
Give me a hell yeah! Get some love! Ooh, yeah!
With Kenny Killer.
Hey, yo! We're in the big D tonight, baby! And we are live! Woo!
I'm the Goddamn Sugar Should.
The best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be! Cause that's the bottom line! The Stone Cold said so!
Download the Sunday Segway Wrestling Podcast now at iTunes. Right, guys, welcome back to the podcast. Just want to give a quick shout out to Nick Ayton and Cyrus as well. Nick, I don't know what your wrestling name is, so I'm gonna have to call you by your name. So if you don't like that, I apologize, but it is what it is. I went to EPW's training session last week, Monday to be precise, and took part in it. And I saw him there, and he asked for a shout out, and I said I'd do it. So here it is. And also a shout out to Cyrus as well. Thank you guys for subscribing and supporting the podcast. It's very much appreciated, and I hope you like. As well, be very critical, but what you see on the show is what you get, okay? I am real, and I don't bullshit on this show. Everybody has their opinions, everybody's entitled to it. I just call it as I say it, like I said. But hope you enjoy the podcast, hope you enjoy what takes place on the show. And like I said, thank you so much for your support and subscribing and all of that. And if you want more information on EPW as well, guys, go to epwwrestling.co.uk, at EPW Wrestling 1 on Twitter, and EPW American Wrestling on Facebook as well, facebook.com/EPW American Wrestling as well, to be precise, and like that page and support EPW Wrestling in Middlesbrough. Just a little quick note on Paige, the Divas Champion. WWE has a wrestling Alicia Fox. Now, this is not a knock on Alicia Fox, because why is she not getting a push? A former Divas Champion is beyond me. This woman, Paige, is the Divas Champion. You have her beat Alicia Fox by the submission by the way she did the previous week on Raw. And then this past week in London, you have her lose to Alicia Fox in her home state, so to speak, her home country. You'd have been best off, WWE, having her lose to Alicia Fox on that Raw before, so Alicia didn't have to go and do that temper tantrum she threw, okay? I don't know what your game is with the Divas Champion, but speaking as a fan of the WWE, maybe it's time, I think, you got rid of the Divas division altogether, basically, the Divas title division, and just focused on, the NXT title, because the NXT title seems more prestigious, and more caring than the Divas title. I mean, she's the Divas Champion, and she loses a match in her home state, and the crowd booed. It makes no sense, first of all, and second of all, it's mind-boggling. It really is, how you treating her. Yes, she's 21 years old. Yes, she won the Divas title after WrestleMania, the night after WrestleMania when AJ ran her mouth and everything. But it seems that you've put the Divas title on her because in your mind, WWE, nobody else was worthy of it. So you thought, oh yeah, we'll put the Divas title on Paige and AJ Lee can go away and do a thing because AJ Lee hasn't been on TV for a while. And then when AJ comes back, we put the Divas title back on her again and then that'll be all fine and dandy. I don't like this WWE, and speaking as a fan, if this is how it's going to be with the Divas division, you'd be best off getting rid of it. And that's just my opinion on it. And I know if you tune into Sunday Segway as well, this past Sunday as well, I'm pretty sure that Kenny and Cole will have a huge something to say about that as well. If you listen to the podcast the episode just gone, I'm pretty sure they'll have something to say about that as well. But be that as it may, it's just disgraceful, and speaking as a fan, I don't like it. With that being said, ladies and gents, also check out my youtube.com/AJW Wrestling Matters. I decided to shoot a pilot episode, if you will, of a video podcast that I'm working on. It is up there on the YouTube page now. I talk about Extreme Rules pay-per-view, which I know was in May. I talk about the pay-per-view that was at the beginning of May, leading into my predictions for Payback, as well as talk about the low ratings, my somewhat of opinion on the low ratings for Raw and Smackdown. Check that out. Be sure to check that out and subscribe to me as well, and like that, and subscribe to me and page it, and hopefully it'll all go hunky-dory on that one. And plus, thank you to everybody on Podomatic and everybody who's downloaded this podcast. The highest rated position, the highest ranking position has been number 8 on Podomatic. Guys, thank you so much. It means a lot, and it shows you that I'm doing something right. Just keep supporting, keep appreciating, and keep supporting the podcast. A little announcement as well, in the upcoming weeks as well, I'm going to get in touch with Kenny and Suggs and various other people as well to bring them onto the show. I'm going to have some guests on the show also, and we're gonna have some fun, and proper fun as well. So be on the lookout for that as well. And Kenny and Sugar Shugs, I hope you're listening, because I'll be knocking on your doors very, very soon. But with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, this has been episode 8 of the Wrestling Matters podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for downloading and all that good stuff. And be sure to tune into episode 9 next week. And until then, thank you so much. And my name is Anthony Walker. Goodbye.